the first to know. Nsem-Pii TV.
Alright, also for Michelle. Emo Kwaba. Efamra Yakazafoni so Nsem-Pii TV. Be the first to know. Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, Honorable Member of Parliament for North Tongue constituency, and then the Minister for Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration. Ebusia for Enrata. Okopiemu ewo Benard Avle eshusu ewo Channel 1 TV. Neho ena Benard ede tudwase. Ede ade ena Honorable Okudzeto Ablakwa ne Nabai etimi ayenisano, because according to Benard Avle no ebeto dwase enipa 250 bi wo ha United States of America deportu mu ede akọ various countries na ehwe mu no 250 no ebepi mu Ghana 14 etimi abedru na 40 so enam kwan so eba eno ena Benard Avle hm say unconstitutional because I'm passing through a Parliament House of Ghana. Na Honorable Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa emiya no a ebusuafo de hyehyɛ dum ni adan sɛ MOU bia obeto ye na Attorney General no etu omufo sɛ momu emfa nkɔ Parliament. Eno na Dawuro hm say no. According to Article 75 no, it was breached under John Dramani Mahama the first na memu because abra Guantanamo Bay mienu edo mo be pie ho no na na bi ene ewraba akon etama 7 no de kopie mu Supreme Court say omuhia a proper interpretation ema a Supreme Court chaired by Justice Sophia Akufu omuwie ye no na enipa sia agye tumu say moamfa ekwan papa so out of 7 no enipa sia agye tumu say moamfa ekwan papa so only one person oppose ye William Atuguba. Nancy, it does so sending microphone back to the United States of America, and now say it should pass through the necessary process a Parliament House of Ghana. And so one way in be now it be a Kwaku Ajimamanu, and the health minister then abra COVID nearby no mukoto a vaccine side friend says Sputnik 2 Sputnik V if Russia the ebaye na eno Okudzeto Ablakwa Haruna Idrusu omutama 7 court say ma Parliament House of Ghana tinke yenjeli ajimamenu na ene ede ne si nti a sa Okudzeto Ablakwa de wotimi akwaje West African countries na West African citizens ede ba Ghana ha abra amfa Parliament House no ebusuafo tenase na yenti na yenhwe Article 75 how isi chirichiri mu no na wuri a onzo so do adwenkyere ato comment section no ase Dawuro ene Benard Avle ene de tuda
yankohe video nimra yankohe mra yeah.
I think the Supreme Court held that whatever name you give it, when two countries come up with an arrangement that places obligations on both of them, whether you call it a treaty, a contract, it requires ratification. It was a majority decision. Only one person dissented. So I'm a bit surprised you're saying because an MOU, it means that it oughtn't have gone to Parliament. The judgment was very clear on the Guantanamo 3 that Article 75 was violated, which says international agreements must go through Parliament. And you are a 4th MP, so at least you could have gone to Parliament. And you have a massive majority. So what's the problem?
No, I agree with you. And that is why I said at the press conference I held a couple of days ago that when this is elevated beyond an MOU and it's a full agreement, we will go to Parliament under Article 75 and have it ratified. At this point, it is just a loose understanding.
The agreement is enforced. But how can you enforce? How can you enforce something you call a loose agreement? That is already enforced. You've brought forth and you're bringing forth.
Look, I've inherited so many MOUs that didn't go to Parliament for ratification, and
but because of the precedent of the Gizmo 3, I felt like this was, and you know this. So is it an oversight? Are you going to apologize for it, or you don't think it is?
No, it's not an oversight because we sought the Attorney General's advice. It was discussed in cabinet, and the Attorney General's advice and his counterpart, the Attorney General on the US side, also said that look, this is an MOU. and MOUs do not require ratification.
Oh,
that is why
the attorney general is wrong, because the judgment is clear. I can read it.
Oh, you know better law than the attorney general.
At least the law is there for all of us to read. Unless the English reading of what the Supreme Court said is different.
See MOUs in that judgment.
The language of Article 75 is perfectly clear. The article forms part of the set of provisions governing the role of the executive arm of government in Ghana's international relations. I'm reading the judgment.
Yeah.
The scope of the article deals with treaties in general. The side notes and the body of the text makes reference to treaties, agreements, and conventions. It is also clear that the instruments referred to relate to Ghana's international relations with other countries or groups of countries, and the article requires that such instruments must be ratified by Parliament. The Constitution makes no mention of any formal distinctions that are dependent on the formality with which such an instrument is formatted or brought into being. Then it goes on to even list MOUs, etc. This is the judgment. This is a Sophia Kufu. I'm not the one saying it. So I don't know whether you're saying because the AG says, in fact, if the argument of the defendant in the state, the government, were to be taken seriously, that the transaction being by way of note verbal, executive agreement, memorandum of understanding, diplomatic note, or what have you, is merely administrative one, then the question arises as to the exact status of the said persons now that they are in Ghana. Are they migrants? It's a long argument. It basically says once two countries agree on something of that nature, Parliament must ratify. It's very clear.
We are working with the Attorney General's advice, and the Attorney General's advice is that when this is elevated to an agreement, it can be ratified. At this point, there's no need for ratification. So that.
All right. Eric Medase. Abusia video amoshe yi Ghana. Foreign Affairs Minister friend Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa. Na Benard Avle shows who City TV. And na channel 1 TV. Ene yomukudi enkomo. Na one of the questions eye Nsem-Pii aba Ghana for ka ho asem na senkrofo adwen she dan ko ho. And they say August this year Ghana ban ene America ban akwa apam say or the some West African nationals omo akoye eniamo ho sem bi wa America ana America ban for say bibi nti omo ntimi ntina America ho na ope ba bi di omo akwa koguo na Ghana ban akwa gia tum say odiom ba begu ye man mu yeso omo ya about 250 na 250 no 250 no emu 14 edikan ababedu ena emu 40 enso enam kwan so na akadodo nso a ebeba akiri Ghana for shall say bisa questions say adenti na deal no anko parliament because as I say anko parliament na parliament agitum and sadie we ebiasi na John Mahama na mamu edikan no ena akwakwa je enkrofo bi ba kroma ase mu bekan a na omo ye yemenfo mienu bi anomo Guantanamo Bay ewo America ho a ye de omo ebae na Ghana for ye pe edin 20 ye to omudin gitmo 2 na omo bae no omo so say ya John Mahama ban no efa sebo akwan so ekwaje omo koda edbe wuro man ni mu ekire na ho da ho ena Henry Nanaboache Nanabi any Arabi a friend of Margaret Banfo Echo Supreme Court Echo Kache Supreme Court say the true and proper interpretation of Article 75 because for say Ekwaya John Mahama afaso aji enipande abo man Ghana mu no wamfa emra kwan so Supreme Court etna say Judge Fonson Mame Sophia Kufu and I know you're presiding judge 6 of the justices I can say Ekwaya ma John Mahama faso eji enipa ne bo man mu no wamfa mra kwan so enti no enema mienu ida say be sade omako ana say obedwe ko parliament na parliament a rectify sa agreement no onipa ba akon na odi sentence a ruling muni nipa akon Justice William Atuguba say enye wonwa ono de enye dey obe dissent. Now before that, na Supreme Court the kind ama rulings. Bibet say Amidu number 1 versus Attorney General. In the case of Wyoming, ama Attorney General na can say Supreme Court can say ansana obi amanoni company bi and now my for so ni Ghana be sign contract bi ano. Ese a parliament. Na parliament eji 2 months ansa na etima ye adwuma. In the case of Johnny Debugri versus Attorney General, ono so GMP's case no so akọ empoma Supreme Court asa ka say Ghana ban who fa tell me Ghana ban any o ma foforo e sign contract bia no a na Ghana ban pese otwa sa contract ni mu a ese se odeko parliament na parliament enso ma approval ansa na watimi atwam etu beje contract na ese odeko parliament ubetwam so a ese odeko parliament so eno wo ho. But in this video Okudzeto ablakwa say Oma fanko parliament and Oma shase eje enkrofo edeba yemagani mu, putting all of us at risk. Na ninchira muni say a cabinet decision. Yakasa cabinet decision ministers of state cabinet ministers no enyina ato mampani to na vice chairman vice president to general secretary of NDC fifi kwetenie ese din ketenie omo nyina na tena ase na omo gitu mu say yenye enkrofo ye deport omo no mra Ghana wa bre omo fa nko parliament enkobo parliamentarians na mane ni Ghana fo amane e na Benard Avle bi sa no say na say wo ye say dia mabu oman the constitution so the Supreme Court judgment and a ruling na ma interpretation of Article 75 no so no eno so mabuso o say ono de omu hwe so because we no MOU. Then he went further to read to him portions of the ruling of the Supreme Court. Say Supreme Court can say a treaty, say a contract, say MOU, say a bibia once involving Ghana any another country no there as a parliament who overwhelming majority of parliament abi biadbeko parliament bia no ubetimi age atum Okudzeto ablakwa say ono de Attorney General Dominic Ayeni ka kire cabinet say betimi age atum because America Attorney General no aka kire ni say we nya de say ko parliament into ono so age atum hook line and sinker akoka kire John Mahama e wo cabinet ase ama John Mahama so age atum e mo ma hyase eje ahoho atukotenafo ebinum aye bone ama wo America no mne ade e de omo eba oman Ghana mu. Question me bisa me ho ne say enya sa Attorney General we ena na anu yi no Commonwealth for omo ba association e tro krata de brand say e kwan a wo fa su eyi maami tokonu adi no on wan fa mra kwan so enti on hwe no fa periperi ye enya adwuma na maame no yensan reinstate no kwan adwuma na no call back conference ase okodidi lawyer fo no nyina atem Ghana Bar Association fo didi omo nyina atem esa catch omo say enya de obi betimi afiri ni man so no obe catch ye Ghana fo kwan yen fa so mfa ye mra enya adwuma. But Okudzeto ablakwa I expose no aka kire say eye America Attorney General and Alfred Dominic Ayeni Ghana Attorney General no aka kire ne say medini pa brawo jamu wo manu na we enko parliament enti no je ama Dominic Ayeni nso age eme make say enipa no 40 di ka by you say in the coming days ebetimi aye ne ebetimi aye ochena ebetimi aye ochena chin nipa no 40 enso eba. We are told say we are expecting about 250 of them e dey aba oman Ghana mu omo ba so omo decide some be ko some be tena ho ye nyina ya samwa. John Mahama 1 okoji gitmo 2 fo John Mahama 2 okoji yesi West African nationals e dey aba enti wan hwe yi a da kuru ye tiase ya ne wakoji amimfo ene atuturafo e dey aba begu ye so na oman Ghana yedie nyina enkwa e dey ato esen mu se owura Mahama eni bibia wo DC a adenti no suro se odi agreement no ebeko parliament because the majority to go through onim say whatever the agreement entails say or the core parliament the minority will scrutinize it and bibi omubiano will come out na abe catch Ghana for say ni womunie and we do have parliament. Now what makes the whole situation rich? Kwakwajima menu former health minister ena corona abawiase ena corona no ekunipa ena Ghana yesi aduro bi a yede ku corona no ye fa no Sputnik V et Ghana buy say op Sputnik V ni bi na odi aku corona et shake bi ewo Dubai ho ba bi na ye nya bi ena yesi ekofa no so minority for ede Kwakwajima menu eko parliament say Kwakwajima menu aye nipa bonini na wakwa akoto nuro a ne bo den esi ne yeto na wiasa mansan dwa so ebiem eye external agreement ejina esese ode ko parliament na parliament ema approval Kwakwajima menu amfa nko parliament ejomo pushi ye ema parliament eti committee na members of that committee na eko probi Sputnik V no na eye nipa de sa petition ni koye no na Haruna Idrisu Parliamentary kando na Okudzeto ablakwa number 3 sabre no na Haruna Idrisu minority leader Kwakwajima Parliamentary kando ranking member health committee na Okudzeto ablakwa ranking member foreign affairs committee Okudzeto ablakwa nom enmeyeti committee se Kwakwajima menu akoto nuro covid nuro ayade ebesa nipa yare ne abonipa ho ban no wanfa ama parliament anyantum ejomo de koe eventually what happened ni say court parliament committee no recommended say contract re ntwam omo sign recommend biom in fact be yet nyesu Ghana say yam prosecute Kwakwajima menu say wakwa sign contract with a certain shake na ama parliament for approval na nunti ama eduro no buo ayedin ese ne ese Ghana for eto today Okudzeto ablakwa foreign affairs minister wako akwa hia ne America for de omonsa akọ secretary ase ama yesesa enkrofo abegu yeso oma afa diu na nko parliament ye bisa na o say America attorney general aka kire Ghana attorney general say we enko parliament ema attorney general no so ekobojo mahama amane o cabinet emu nyina age atum se ampani America attorney general no eka no right senior Ghana constitution no and the Supreme Court of the land eka in the case of Henry Nanabuache and Margaret Banfo versus attorney general entiene ya shase nipa no de bo man Ghana mu de nipa ba no ba so wo yenim nipa ko mo ba wo asate na yetie yenim ba bi ombetena yenim eberedu ombetena krom ha sei se omo betena ha for enfie bi bosumi bi enabi ana omo ba asetena afebo omo bedu o man Ghana mu a omadua ne die omo ase ba bi ombetena ede ombedam ene hwan nyina no Ghana for yenim san krofo ede omo ba no se omo ye hardened criminals se omo ye terrorists se omo ye hwan enu susu yenim the only means I betimi dia hu sa de ne se aban edi agreement no ebeko parliament senior article 75 any the Supreme Court ruling in the case of Henry Nanabuache Margaret Banfo versus Attorney General Ekano Okudzeto ablakwa so ese apetampe Ghana for moye den omonfanko ablakwa ranking member our foreign affairs committee so na Akufo-Addo wa ban mu na Akufo-Addo akwa sensan krata ne wan fa ma parliament na okwaji ahoho ne amimfo e de abegu yeso man Ghana mu. Can you imagine what will happen in this country? Adentina minority ranking member no o issue one statement pe osade hu no wakopa ne ba bia cha no wa edin adentia I am very sad. And as I said, Ghana for sorry, well-meaning Ghanaians, they kasa etia the conduct of John Dramani Mahama. And you see, and you why because now we Ghana buying embassy in America. Okudzeto ablakwa and flimsy excuses. Esukokotumu and me create a rift between Ghana and America. And my enemy say sanctions in the ban eba. enti ope bibia papa na niwuo enti okwaji kotobeku mafo e dia begu yeso abedi oman na wu. And everybody is quiet. Nobody is talking. How can we build a country like this? Okudzeto ablakwa dishonesty ashanema or a politician bia only principles. Because so it me be na no e ka kire say yenko top presidential jet for fraud dia. Say most ebresu na ewo yi a anka ba na asase apai am Okudzeto ablakwa wo chema nkrola ni ti